all of the dean's notes are here. What if I just kind of put them all in like all kinds of different directions here? And a slide comes up. And, well, no, I won't do that. But it looks like it's going to be a really good presentation. As a lot of you know, I came up the headhunting route, and that's what I did before I decided to stop working and walk the Appalachian Trail about 6 years ago. And so I did that, and ever since then I've been unemployed, but I've at least stayed out of the poorhouse for the last 6 years. It's interesting to have to find a suit when you haven't worn one in 6 years. I found out that all my suits had this line of dust on the shoulders, and so this morning I had the towel out and I was trying to get the dust off the shoulder of this suit, and it doesn't fit anymore. I was really fat when I used to, so. But it is great to see great friends. I haven't seen Pepper Bullock in years, and we lived in the same neighborhood for 20 years, and a great friend. In the old days, Pepper and I would have a lunch once a year and just kind of catch up on stuff. And Pepper, sometimes the obvious things would kind of slide by him a little bit. We were talking about the lunch we were having one day, and it was just awful. I mean, the service was bad and the food was awful, and so I was just mentioning to Pepper, God, the food sure is bad. And he said, man, that sure is right, and the portions are small too. And I'm thinking, but anyway, the process of the search committee work for the dean search was a labor of love for me. It was actually the third time I had done that. I had been on the search committee for Al Nemai a long time ago, and then I was my firm was pleased to help the search committee for George Benson. And then when Arnett Mason and Mike Adams asked me to serve on the search committee for Robert's search, it was quite an honor, and it was quite a process. It was very interesting. The Terry School attracted a who's who of candidates, and I don't think it was the search process or the search committee that had anything to do with it. It was all about Terry, and we did have an extraordinary group of folks that had interest in becoming the new Terry Dean. Robert, in a kind of quiet and powerful way, became emerging as our choice about the middle part of the process. And it was so interesting. After Robert had visited Athens and had met with the faculty and the student groups, the feedback started coming back that he was the clear choice, and such a clear choice that all of the other candidates were just kind of eliminated. And if Robert hadn't have chosen to join us, we would have had to start the process over, because he had impacted the folks so well in his clear vision, his intellect, his dedication to academics, his relationship that he has built and maintained with every faculty that he's been a part of. He was at Virginia Tech for a long time. The dean of the business school at Virginia Tech is one of the most respected deans in the nation, if not the most respected dean in the nation. And he was actually selfishly trying to keep Robert at Virginia Tech to replace him when his retirement came. But he told me, he said, he's the best young dean in the nation. He said there's not really anybody close. I have trouble pronouncing the last school. See, now that's Terry's so easy to pronounce. Okay, I think it's spelled Orso, but I think it's pronounced Uso. Okay, so Robert was the dean of the Uso Business School at LSU. in a very tough time for that school, did an extraordinary job. For example, to build a building in Louisiana, you have to have legislative approval. You have to have the legislatures vote on whether you should build a building on that campus. And Robert did, in the face of a budget crisis and in the face of the political maelstrom that was going on at the time, and did an extraordinary job of building that school up to national recognition. He came to us. We were so happy that he accepted our offer. He has an extraordinary academic background, which makes him very comfortable with his faculty. And we've got a great faculty at UGA Terry, and that was important. He builds long-term, solid relationships, dependable relationships with alumni, and we're just so honored to have him here. Now all that's over. It's time to get to work, and with that, the only part of the introduction that I want to leave out is that the most powerful part of his success, Carol Ann's not here this morning, and I think that she's going to be part of that Terry family that is going to be so special. She's a wonderful person, and so we're lucky to have the whole Sumichrast family with us. With that, let me introduce Robert Sumichrast.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks very much. Is this? Yeah, it is. Thanks very much for that very generous introduction. I am very proud to be able to call Pat both a friend and a colleague. For those of you who don't understand the colleague part, Pat is one of our executives in residence at Terry, and he teaches a very popular course with the students in our leadership curriculum. And once in a while, he'll let me come and sit in on his class and learn a little bit about that subject. So thanks very much, Pat, for all you do for us. I am thrilled to be here. I am really excited about being part of education. You know, I think, as I've said on other occasions, education is one of the really powerful tools that we've got for improving society. And personally, I'm especially excited about being part of higher education in a research university, where we don't simply teach students what we know, but we actually create new knowledge, and we push the boundaries a little bit and give to those people who want to take advantage of it a competitive advantage. And let me just, I mean, Pat has given a good introduction of me, but let me just say a couple things about me before we start talking about Terry. When I think about what you can do as the dean of a business school, I want to be at a business school where I can feel like I'm going to be successful and have an impact. And so you need to come to a place that has a strong faculty, as Pat has said, a good reputation, resources to keep it going. But even more importantly, I want to be at a place where I see potential for improvement. And I think we have such tremendous upside potential at the University of Georgia and the Terry College. I mean, we're in a good place now, but we can move tremendously forward, and that's what we intend to do over the coming months and years. In coming to this position as dean of the Terry College, I didn't come with the idea of being sort of the owner president of a company or the CEO of a company. I came here with the idea of trying to serve the community. I came here with the idea of being a managing partner, if you will. I want to work with you and with the other people in the college and university and constituency groups to really create a first-class university. There are four sort of things I might tell you about me. One is in this mode of managing partner as dean, you can count on me to be fair and honest. Whether I'm dealing with alumni or the president or faculty or students, I probably won't always tell you what you want to hear. I probably won't always tell you what you think is the right choice. We'll disagree, and you'll be disappointed. But I will do my best to explain why we're taking a particular course of action. A second thing is I believe in forming a team. And I'm so glad to have you coming to Terry Third Thursday so that we can have this connection between the Atlanta business community and the Terry College and the University of Georgia. What I found at Virginia Tech and what I found again at LSU and what I'm finding at the Terry College here at the University of Georgia is there are a lot of really smart people out there. And there are people that love the university and they want to help. They'll give you their time, they'll give you their ideas, they will even give you their money. And all you have to do is be willing to accept it. And that's the kind of team, that's the kind of partnership that I'd like to form with you. A third sort of thing is that if we're going to have a great university and a great college of business, we need to find a way to leverage our strengths. You know, we've already got some programs that have true national prominence. I was at a reception last night over at the Terminus building. I know some of you were there as well for our real estate program. You know, we had over 100 people there, sponsored by Cousins Properties. A terrific event. Our real estate program is one of the absolutely top programs in the country. You know, up there ranked as, I think it's currently number 2, but certainly in the number 5. I mean, certainly in the top 5, again and again. You know, ranked up with places like Northwestern and Wisconsin, the very tops in the field, Stanford. So I think that's important. You need to find a way to take those areas where you have this strength and then leverage it across the entire college, bring the whole college up with that. And finally, I believe in what's sort of a contradictory statement here. One of the first people I met in coming to the Atlanta business community was Jim Nally. And I don't know if you've been in his office, but he has a plaque on his desk that says something like under promise, over deliver. And when I make promises, that's the way I like to think about it. Over deliver on what you promise. On the other hand, I believe in setting your goals very high. And as we form a new strategic plan for the college over the coming months, and as we form an operational plan, we're going to put very specific goals in it. You know, I don't know what those goals are today, but you know, I can imagine we will have targets for graduation rates, and we will have targets for test scores, and we will have targets for starting salaries, and you know, the list will go on and on. We're going to set those goals so high that we probably won't meet all of them. You know, but if you don't aim high, if you don't come up with an ambitious plan, you don't really reach your full potential. So, on the one hand, it may seem contradictory. I'm going to over-deliver on promises. On the other hand, we're going to set our goals very high and maybe stretch goals that we won't all meet. Let me now start talking a little bit about my early impressions of Terry. If you want to be successful as a business school dean, you have to have the support of the business community. And usually the alumni and the business community, there's going to be an awful lot of overlap there. Well, when I walked into the search committee, I had my first airport interview, and I looked at some of the names on that search committee, I already knew that the Terry College had this strong relationship and that I could build on that. And we had not a committee made up just of faculty or students or administrators. We had 4 people from the business community searching for a new dean for the business school. Pat has already said he was on there. We have Lowell White, Taylor Glover, Earl Leonard. You know, we had some important people from the Georgia business community being a part of that search. And that sent a powerful message to me, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to come to the Terry College. The state, I think, has a very good commitment to higher education. You know, when you look at what Georgia does for higher education and you compare it to other states, there are a number of ways you can look at it. Look at it in terms of general appropriations. We are getting about 1/3 of our budget from general appropriations at the University of Georgia. That's high. I mean, there certainly are states we could mention that are in the single digits. You know, not 1/3 of the budget. So that's good. There's another component of state support that is very strong, and that's the Hope Scholarship. That's done an awful lot for Georgia and for the University of Georgia in terms of encouraging more of our high school graduates to go on to college, and in terms of assuring that we keep some of the best students here in the University of Georgia and some of the other universities in the state. So that's a powerful commitment. Those are expensive commitments, though. And so one of the things that I've seen in kind of investigating the state and investigating the future is I think that the state's going to be able to afford to keep those commitments. If you look at the projected growth, if you look at the influx of people, the growing population, there's good reason to think that the state will be able to keep up with those commitments. And just as a little plug, you've got these cards on your table about the upcoming economic outlook. If you want more details on what I think and what the Selig Center thinks in terms of research on the future of the state and sectors that will grow, sectors that won't, risks that we see and growth that we see, come to one of these events. There's going to be our biggest event is December 4th at the World Congress Center. So there's some of these other things I'm going to talk about in more detail as we go forward. There's really a big range of degree programs and responsibilities that the college has, bigger than I understood before I got here. This was maybe one of the surprises. Very good thing is that the college is open to change. Sometimes you come into an organization and people are fixed in their ways, but I have asked people to change roles and responsibilities. I've asked curriculum committees to take a look at how we're delivering programs and what courses are in the programs. Everyone that I've talked to about these ideas has been open. And finally, and maybe most importantly, you're going to hear me again and again talk about national prominence in the coming months and coming years, and we're going to achieve that. There is tremendous upside potential for the Terry College. Range of teaching responsibilities. We have quite a few students, about 2,400 undergraduates, another 800 graduate students, and look at all these different programs that we're being asked to teach in. They're all good programs, but it is spreading us pretty thin. We've got more majors than we have academic departments. Some departments have two majors. We've got an international business major that is sort of college-wide. We have MBA programs in various formats in different locations. We have specialized master's programs. We have some certificate programs. We could spend a whole hour talking about our not undergraduate, but our international programs, both degree-oriented and study abroad, exchange, etc. A huge range of programs in the college. And to be able to sort of add to that, we have various locations where we teach. Here in the Terry Executive Education Center, the TEAC as I call it, we are running our Executive MBA. Most of our programs are in Athens, but we're also running degree programs in Gwinnett and Griffin. Here's a disturbing slide from my perspective. The number of professors that we've got in the Terry College has gradually been decreasing. You look back here in the early 2000s and we were up close to 100. Now, beginning this fall, we're at 85, and of those 85, there are really only 72 who are in sort of the traditional teaching research roles for faculty members. I'm officially a professor in a MIS department, but I don't teach. And there are other people who are in administrative roles in the college, and they're not teaching. And, is that a lot? Is that a little? Let's compare it to other schools. We have kind of an official group of peer schools and an official group of aspirant schools. And when you compare us to our peers, where we're at 85, the average peer is at 106. So there's a bit of a disconnect when you look at the range of programs and locations and the number of faculty members we've got, and I think that's one of the things that we're going to need to address over the coming years. There are other people who teach, and I'm not saying these are not qualified when I focus on tenure track faculty, the professors. We're kind of in the ballpark when we look at the people who are teaching, like Professor Pittard over here, excellent way to deliver education to the students, but the core sort of faculty is what we're lacking. Some good news, though. This is a screen capture that somebody sent me yesterday. Just came out on the CNN Money page. I don't know if you're familiar with the Fortune Small Business Plan competition, but the results were announced yesterday for the 5th annual Small Business Competition by Fortune, and it was an MBA student from the University of Georgia who took first place. This is a guy Jay Mullins, who came up with the idea of killing bugs in a green way. Instead of using dangerous chemicals, he's got a system that has chemicals that aren't any riskier than table salt, and essentially it dehydrates the bugs. So it's a green way to control pests in the house, and it took first place. Just to think about the competition, the second place winner was from a place called Northwestern. Third place was from a place called Harvard. So, we've got some real success stories. What about rankings? Are rankings important? Do we care about rankings, or should we care about rankings? Absolutely. Now, you've got to care about them for the right reason, though. I mean, the reason that we're here, we being sort of the Terry College of Business and you being a part of us, is to deliver quality educational programs. That's the goal. It's not to be a highly ranked business school. But there's a correlation between your rank and the quality of your programs. Not exact, but there is a correlation there. And maybe more importantly, being highly ranked allows you to improve your programs. Right? If we're going up in the rankings, it's going to be easier for me to argue with the president and the provost for more resources for the Terry College. If we're going up in the rankings, it's going to be easier to attract the best students in the country, not just in the state of Georgia, but the best students in the country to come. And it's going to be easier to get the best faculty. It's going to be easier to get donations to the college. So for a number of reasons, the rankings are important. They do reflect quality to some extent. But they're a tool that you can use in improving quality. So how are we doing? Well, I've already mentioned we've got some areas where we are truly nationally prominent. Real estate, risk management or insurance, clearly top 5 programs. We've got other programs that are up there in the area of national prominence. Accounting is perennially in the top 20. I think they're number 17 this year. MIS has been moving up to number 11. When you look at our college-wide programs, though, we haven't been doing as well. When we look at our undergraduate, we're getting into the top 30. The MBA, depending on what measure you look at, we're in the top 50. And so it's a little bit frustrating that we've got things like real estate up here in the top 5 and our MBA program up in the top 50. Now, put this in context. Anybody know how many vet schools there are in the country? I just heard this over lunch yesterday. That's why I happen to know there are 28. The number's going up. So, if you're in some areas and you say, I'm in the top 50, that doesn't really say very much. Anybody know how many business schools there are in the country? I don't. There's so many. Well, there's so many that nobody's been able to keep track of it. The low-end estimates are they're somewhat over 2,000, but so somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 business schools in the country. If you're in the top 50, that's pretty darn good. Even so, we can do a lot better. We can do a lot better. And this is an area I want to focus on. In fact, speaking of the MBA, I think this is an area, this is a program that deserves some additional attention. This is a way that we're trying to direct people to know about our MBA program. And as I mentioned, we offer the MBA in a variety of formats. We're trying to make it something that can help people, whether they are ready to go back to campus and spend a couple years in our full-time program, or whether they're here working professionals going to our executive program on weekends, or whether they're living more in the Gwinnett area. We're trying to make the MBA program available to people in a lot of different areas. Now, why am I focusing on the MBA program? Right? Because I want to see us make progress, and I want to see that progress reflected in the rankings, and it's a practical thing for us to do. The MBA program has tremendous profile. I mean, a lot of people will look at the rankings of MBA programs and say that is the ranking of business schools. It's a small program. Now, the small size of the program hurts us because if you want to get your reputation out there, you need to get your students out there and well placed. And we don't have that many students. There are a total of 120 students in our full-time MBA program, and that's the component that really sets the ranking. But it can work in our favor as well. Because the program is small and because it's so short, you can finish the full-time program in as little as 11 months or as much as 2 years, depending on sort of which version of it you get into. So with a relatively modest investment, with some hard work, I think we can really move that program up quickly. That can move the perception, the national prominence of the College of Business, the Terry College of Business, up very quickly. And through that, we can have the resources that we want to improve our undergraduate programs, to support our faculty, to support this range of programs that the college is working on. And so that's part of our strategy. How good are we doing currently? Well, as I said, we're, I would say we're a top 50 program. We are 46 in U.S. News, 50 in Financial Times, 34 in Wall Street Journal. We can do a lot better than that, and I have some specific ideas on how to do that, and we won't go into all of those right now, but there's some real ways that we can improve that program and use those resources that it brings to help other parts of the college. Remember, it's not the ranking that's the goal, it's the ranking that's the tool. There are other parts of the Terry College that are important. I want to keep the Terry College connected to the business community. And I think that, I hope that all of you subscribe to the idea that you don't get a degree, go into business, and then just stop. That you continue to learn, you continue to progress, hopefully in your careers, but also in your education. We offer a variety of ways that people can improve their careers, get skills for going on to new job responsibilities, interact with each other. We've got Charlie Squires here who can tell you more about some of these programs, but they range from certificate prep programs like our Certified Financial Planner to opportunities to get together in conferences in specific industries. So a wide range of programs, and I think an important part of the Terry College. A lot of them are focused here in the Atlanta area. Research is something that I mentioned early on as being important for a college like Terry, a university like the University of Georgia. And when I talk to business people, it's sometimes hard to get them excited about research because you sort of get that impression that you got the faculty member sitting in his office or her office. They're writing a paper, and the paper goes off and gets published, and we stick it up on a shelf in the library, and you can feel good about having your name in print. And if that's your goal as a faculty member, then I'd say you're not doing a very good job. I mean, the point is not to get your name in print. The point is not to be off in your own little world and get something published that you're interested in. The point is to improve business. It's a fundamental responsibility of faculty, and if you think about how can this country, how can our companies have a competitive advantage, it's only by doing research and finding better methods. It's only by doing research and better understanding what we're currently doing, what our competitors are doing. I think doing research when I was in the classroom made me a much better teacher. You know, it keeps you on the edge of things. It keeps you connected with what's really happening in business if you're doing research in the right way. So I just wanted to give you a few examples of the kinds of research that some of our faculty are doing. Sales on the web. All of you have companies that have websites. How well are they designed? Now, how do you know if they're designed well? Well, we have faculty in our MIS department and in marketing, George Zinkin and Rick Watson, who are doing experiments to find out how people react to different types of web pages. And they're able to offer general advice on, what type of graphics to use, how complex you want your web pages to be. More information is good, but too much information makes it cluttered and impractical. How many links should be off a web page. And I'm not going to try to give you the research findings, but these are the kinds of things they're studying. And for people who will use their advice, use their results, you can come up with web pages that are more effective in generating sales, more effective in getting your message out to the public. So that's one example of research. Detecting fraud. We have faculty in our accounting department who are working collaboratively with the big four accounting firms to try to find ways that you can detect fraud in an audit. And some of the things that they found are not at all intuitively obvious. They found out that if you give too little information, if you really skimp on what you report, people don't ask too many questions. If you give sort of a moderate amount, then people start asking questions, and then if you give lots and lots of information, the questions go back down again. So, there are sort of rules of thumb. There's advice that they can give to people about how to better detect fraud, or when to look for fraud, or I guess how to cover up fraud if that's your goal. Hopefully not. Sarbanes-Oxley. People love to complain about Sarbanes-Oxley, and when I talk to people about it, I've asked business people, do you think we should just get rid of it? Was it just a bad idea? And I've yet to have anybody, at least after the sort of initial onslaught of Sarbanes-Oxley, I've yet to have anybody say, I think we should really just eliminate this thing. It was absolutely a mistake to put it in. Most people talk instead about how to improve it, how to make sure that the small companies in particular don't get overly penalized, don't have too much of a burden put on them in terms of the paperwork and the reporting. People then are looking for ways to improve Sarbanes-Oxley, to tweak it, to make it achieve its goals without excessive interference. We've got people who've looked at Sarbanes-Oxley from a number of different ways. This particular study by Jim Link, Jeff Netter, and a PhD student that is now at Clemson University that they work with, took a look at the effects of Sarbanes-Oxley on the makeup of corporate boards. And some of the things that they found were it changed the makeup of the corporate board, where we now have boards that are more heavily made up of retired executives as opposed to current people. We've got larger boards. We've got boards that have a larger workload than they've had in the past. And as you probably don't find surprising, they found that these effects are disproportionate when you look at smaller firms. So if we don't understand how Sarbanes-Oxley really impacts firms, if we don't quantitatively know that, we can't make good choices on how to improve it. These are the kinds of research that some of our faculty members are doing, and I could go on, but I just wanted to give you some examples of the kinds of things that business faculty do as research. We're not the School of Ancient Languages. We're the College of Business, and we do research to try to improve business practices, to try to better use funds, to try to find ways of better marketing products, better detecting fraud. Those are the kinds of things that our faculty are working on when we talk about research. Let's talk about facilities. We've got a great facility here. The Terry Executive Education Center has very nice classrooms, clean offices. It's got a nice meeting space here for this type of an event. If there's a problem with it, it's not the quality of the facility, it's not the location of the facility. The problem is we're going to outgrow this facility, because when I look at where we're making strides in improving our programs and in getting more enrollment, it certainly is in our executive education, both non-credit programs and degree granting programs. We've been running this facility now for 3.5 years or so. I actually came here to visit from LSU shortly after it opened, opened as the Terry College of Business facility, just to get an idea of what a first-rate executive education center would look like. And at that point, the Terry College was running its executive MBA program. Well, since then, we've gone from one section of an executive MBA program to two sections. We, this fall, have started our evening MBA program, so we're using it during the week as well. We've added these non-credit certified financial planning and other programs. We're using it for board meetings. We have our young alumni board is just getting started up, and they've got a meeting coming up at 9 o'clock, so right after we finish here. So we're using this facility in a number of different ways. You know, if anything is wrong with this facility, it's just that we're going to outgrow it, or at least we're going to have to find ways of taking over more space in it. Our main campus, though, is a problem. If you look at Brooks Hall, which is a main business building in Athens, it's a great place to get your picture taken. You know, I love to go out there, and you got these massive white columns, and it looks terrific. When they brought me to campus to interview, and they showed me around the dean's office and some of the conference rooms, I thought, this is really good facility. You know, I can't believe that anybody wouldn't be happy with this. But when you look at the entire building, and when you look at the building when it's in use, and really we've got more than one building that we're using, you start seeing scenes like this, where you're in this little basement area between classes. You know, there are no study areas, there's no library, there's no breakout rooms, there's no career services. And so what do the students do? Well, they either sit down in the hallways like this. This is not a staged shot, this is just everyday life in Athens. Or they go home. In our management classes, we tell the students it's important to work as a team. So we're going to put you on a project, and we want you to go out with your team members and work on this case, or go out with your team members and investigate this area. And then we turn them loose, and they can go in the hall and they can work with their team, or they can get in their cars and they can drive to their individual apartments and they can work in their teams. It's just not set up for us to practice what we preach. Even if that wasn't the problem, and I think that's the biggest problem, it's not big enough. You remember that early slide where I was talking about how we need to add faculty? We're about 20 faculty short of what our average at a peer school would be. Well, where are we going to put them? There aren't any vacant offices. What I'm doing, and you remember I said that people are very open to change at the Terry College, and that's been one of the nice things that I've found. I'm trying to find ways to take less essential services out of our main building to open up some space for additional faculty members. So we're looking at, there are no good options, right? There are only lesser evils. We're looking at ideas like perhaps we can close down a computer classroom, you know, where students can go and have access to computers and turn that into maybe some office space. Or perhaps we can take services like information technology and move it out of our main building into one of the surrounding buildings to free up some space for additional for additional faculty offices. So those aren't good things to do, and yet you know, we do what we need to. Longer term, we need to replace those facilities. Now, the college has been talking about this for a number of years, certainly long before I ever came to Terry. But it's looked at different options, you know, such as, can we take what we've got and just make it better? Well, some of you have probably tried renovating an old house, taking an old house and making it new. And if you've gone through that, you know that it costs a lot more than you planned on. It's a lot more headache than you planned on. It takes a lot longer than you planned. When you look at buildings that are really old like this, and when you look at buildings where there really isn't swing space to take faculty out while you're making these renovations, or extra space where you could build on the same site, I think you find that you're probably better off in terms of cost and everything else just starting over. Well, the university is giving us an opportunity to start over. There's a plot of land that is in a really good location, still North Campus, at the corner of Lumpkin and Baxter. Right now there are some fraternity buildings on it, and the university has been negotiating with those fraternities as their leases go up to move them off of that prime spot of real estate to allow us to have a chance to put a new business school complex up. This is one of the most important projects that we've got for the coming years. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the current state of plans. We looked at what our peer and aspirant schools have to get an idea of how much square footage we need. If we really want to be able to make a qualitative and quantitative improvement in the Terry College, how much space should we need? We've got about 150,000 square feet now. That's about half of what peer and aspirant schools would have. So we need a pretty substantial increase in space. And it has to be a qualitatively different kind of space. We need to have a place like this where we could have a speaker series for our students. We've got contacts with the business community, as you well know, where we could bring in some powerful speakers who'd love to talk to our students. Some of you have volunteered to talk to our students, but we don't have any place to have a meeting like this. So what we're looking at is a complex of probably 3 buildings. We're going to investigate 2 scenarios, at least 2 scenarios for how to do this. But the most likely scenario and kind of the working plan right now is to privately fund 1 building that would be used for our graduate programs, specifically for the MBA program, and then have 2 other buildings that would house faculty, provide space for student meetings and organizations, provide space for our undergraduate education, and do it all on this plot of about 7 acres or so. There's more than enough space for us to build that type of facility. We've got some concepts of what this, especially the first building, would look like. That's a concept view. That is not an architectural rendering. We've had an architect come in and do a building program for us. So we know how many square feet we need for classrooms. We know what size classrooms would work well. We know how many square feet we need for support services, and the list kind of goes on and on. And the architect has shown us how we can put it together in a facility that makes sense. Okay, but to see a floor plan like this is not to hand off to a contractor and say, okay, go build it. So there still is work to be done in terms of getting a final design for this building. There still is work to be done in terms of getting cost estimates finalized and getting construction documents done. If the money was available today, you know, I mean, I think we're still looking at a project of maybe 3 years or so between the planning that still needs to be done, the construction that needs to be done, and actually moving into it. And we're further along with this graduate building than we are with the other 2. The other 2 are more concepts and more sort of massing. But if we build a building for the Terry College, we want to make sure that it is a quality building. We've got one chance to do this, and this is a building that will be you know, a landmark for the University of Georgia and for the Terry College for coming decades, for the next 100 years. So we got to do it right. We don't want to just have the cheapest box that holds all the space that we need. And so we do have, as I said, ideas on what this should look like. Let me just summarize some of the points that I think are important for our future. Okay, what do we really want to do? Focus on national prominence. I mean, when I talk to you, I may want to make a statement about how we're a top 20 business school, and I think it's good to publicize that. But when we set our goals, we're not going to say Emory doesn't count. Private schools don't count. We only have to compete against public schools. That doesn't make any sense. When we talk about goals for the Terry College and we talk about national prominence, we're going to be talking about competing against all the universities and finding a way to go one-on-one against them, whether they are publicly financed or privately financed. That's the universe that we live in. So national prominence is one. Second thing that we clearly need to do is hire more faculty. We've got a wide range of teaching responsibilities. We have opportunities for programs that are really innovative. And one of the newest things that the Terry College added in terms of a program is our music business program. This is an area where we can become the premier program in the country. We have that opportunity. We are somewhat unique in that we're working with a partnership with Arts and Sciences, specifically with the School of Music, so that the students come out knowing the business end of music as well as the artistic end of music, the creative end of music. But in order to fully staff those programs and have class sizes that make sense and have a range of electives for our students that make sense, we've got to get some more faculty. We're going to focus on the MBA program. It's not because I think the MBA is more important than the undergraduate program in marketing, or because I think it's more important than our PhD in economics. It's because of the practical matter. If we want national prominence, and if the MBA program is what many people look at as the business school ranking, and if we're down there ranked in the top 50, we don't have national prominence there. The amount of resources and the amount of time it'll take us to move that top 50 program well up, I think, is less than what it would take for undergraduate programs or doctoral programs, research-oriented programs. It's a practical matter here. And it's an important program in its own right. We need to develop our facilities. I hope we're going to move forward with our 3-building concept at the Lumpkin-Baxter site. In order to do that, we need to know that the business community, the alumni, support it financially. We need to know that the state, through the president and provost, support it financially. What I'm doing right now is we've hired a consultant to come in and take a look at our fundraising operation. So if you look at the ability of the Terry College of Business to raise money privately, it's improved dramatically over the past 8-10 years, something like that, as we've invested in that. But if you compare us to some of the top schools in the country, the nationally prominent schools, we're nowhere near in their league. I don't think we have the expertise to make that jump from where we're at now, which is good, to truly great without some outside help. So we've hired a consultant to come in, take a look at how we're organized, take a look at how we're staffed, and really help us make some clear improvements. And I'm just so pleased, again, with the openness of the people who work in alumni relations, who work in development, who work in our events planning, to say, yeah, that's a great idea. We want to be better. Because, this could result in some very fundamental changes in how we do business. But they're open to that. One of the things that I'm expecting that they're going to recommend is that they do a feasibility study for us on this new building. And we haven't committed to doing that, but I think it's likely that we'll want to do that. If we can have an outside group come in and say, yeah, it's possible for you to raise whatever the cost of this building is in a reasonably short period of time, it'll make it a lot easier to pressure the university, the state, to provide funding for the other buildings. Increase revenues, well, that's just something a dean will always say. We need to find ways to fund the new faculty. We need to find ways to provide scholarships to students to allow them to complete their education. We need to find ways to finance our additional operations, whether it's study abroad programs or leadership programs outside of the classroom. And I think we will make progress in there as well. So that's a little bit about me and a little bit about where I see the Terry College going, sort of what I see as the state of the college, and it's a plea to you in this room to help us. I want your help. I mean, we can't follow up on every good idea. You know, I think you just stretch yourself too thin. But certainly we can talk about what the best ideas are and what direction we want to go in. So anyway, thank you very much. I'd be happy to answer questions. We've got a few minutes yet. No questions? Okay.
Should consider in terms of competition? Would it be Haas, McCombs, Darden? Are there schools out there that you're looking at saying these are best practice schools and we're going after them?
Yeah, there are. And I think Darden would be probably not one we'd look at, even though the quality of the programs is certainly very high. There's the structural difference between them and the Terry College is one that makes me not look at Darden, because they have really the two business schools for undergraduate and primarily graduate. I think Chapel Hill is a good one for us to look at. You know, another state school, so they have the structural similarity. They have well-regarded programs in a number of their disciplines. I think they have national prominence, so that certainly is one. Maybe Washington, University of Washington is certainly a school that we could look to. Ohio State, perhaps, would be a good one for us to look at. So those would be some of the schools that I think we want to look at as being state schools, similarities. Now, certainly we're going to look at the private schools. We're going to look at the Ivy League schools and see what can we learn from them. But there's a difference between kind of looking at their programs and gaining ideas and looking to schools that have structural similarities to us that we want to maybe better adopt their models or see as realistic models for us. Anything else? Okay, well, thanks very much for having me. I've appreciated the chance to talk with you.
Thanks, Dr. Sumichrast. It's kind of fun for me to get to give this to you, because you're normally giving this out. We appreciate you being our Terry Third Thursday speaker this morning. I know as a staff member, we're excited that you're at Terry, and we're glad that you're a part of our Terry family now, and just want to present you with our Terry Third Thursday artwork by Athens artist Paul Benzunas, and we appreciate you being here.
Okay, thanks very much, Jill.
And we hope to see you all next month for our final program of 2007, and just remember to mention that you're with Terry Third Thursday as you exit the parking garage, and your parking will be taken care of. Thanks.